So hello, I'm Heidi Schmidt with Opticom. So today we are talking about, and I've got a quick little outline here on my desktop, kind of making the switch from an analog coax camera system to an HDTVI coax camera system. So they're both running over coax, and we're just going to run through the differences and what you need to swap out in order for your customer or for you yourself to have a system that is compatible with that without having to do a complete overhaul on your system. So first we want to start with what's the difference, right? So what's the difference between an analog and coax? I'm going to share a little thing here. Let's pull this up. All right. So HDTVI, right? So the difference, we're going to skip through here. You can see right here the resolution differences on this, right? So you've got analog, your 960H, and then you've got the 720p 1080p, which is actually what HDTVI is. So what that means is that an HDTVI signal is going to give you a 2 megapixel high definition 1080p resolution over coax. So without actually having to go into a networking camera, which is a pretty big deal. So as we progress, these are all the different technologies that are out there. And this is, I'm going to skip ahead real quick. So this is a chart we have right here. So HD, SDI, AHD, HDCVI, and HDTVI, right? You hear about all of these things that are on the market and you really don't know, how do I know which one to go with? Which one is the best fit for me? You know, and which is going to be the best for the long run of your lifespan of your camera system, right? So HD, SDI has actually been around for a really long time. That's the broadcast signal that people use. One of the really great things is it's got the best image out of everything that's out there, right? Without going into IP networking and getting into, you know, 4K cameras and megapixels and things like that. So the HD SDI is fantastic. It's awesome. The distance on that for the video, as you can see on the chart here, is a lot shorter than that of any of the others, right? So it's a shorter distance on there, and then it's a limited configurability. So if you go through that, you can kind of see where it's great and it's ideal for a lot of things, and it costs more too. But it's not ideal. Whereas the AHD, the CVI, and the TVI, if you look at these, they're all pretty comparable. The TVI is the one that most major manufacturers are supporting. When you get to the AHD and the CVI, those are typically going to be the technologies that you see in a kit that you would get from Costco or from Sam's Club, something like that. So still HD, but just not the same quality as a TVI for where we would like to see people go with a commercial unit, or if you're going into big industrial facilities and things like that, you want to kind of run with the TVI. So I'll stop that one. So as we kind of progress through this and go, we're going to talk about how to implement this into a system. So if you've got a customer or you yourself have a facility and you've already got an analog system in place and you're like, wow, man, I really need to upgrade. I need to do this, right? There's two things to consider. One, what are you going to upgrade to, right? Those are your two options. You can upgrade to an HDTVI system or an IP networking system. IP networking is definitely the future of cameras. However, it doesn't always make sense for you. So you have IP networking, it's a little bit more cost or a little bit more expensive than a typical analog or coax system, especially if you have an analog system in place. Because if you go to IP networking, you have to rip all that coax out or leave it. You know, but you have to run new cable. You have to run Cat5, Cat5e, Cat6, right? You have to drop Ethernet. If you've got a facility and you're looking at larger scale systems, then you're going to need to get in there with fiber as well as Ethernet cable. So that can get pretty costly, not only the cost of the cable, but also the running and the expense of that. So you need to make a decision on the front end. And if your budget doesn't allow for IP networking, the HDTVI is the next viable solution. That's going to give you still that HD quality, but it's going to run over your existing coax. That's assuming, of course, that the coax you have in place is in good shape, right? So you definitely want to check that. You don't want to start replacing stuff when you have coax that's been beat down and it's shabby and it's got cuts all over it, right? But if you've got a good system in place with the cable, then you're good. You can just swap some of this stuff out. So I'm going to share my screen to a different PowerPoint. Quite a lot of things going on today. All right. So if it pulls up full screen. So how to implement HDTVI into your existing analog system. So cable, right? What kind of cable is needed? RG59, RG6, or Cat5. You can still use Cat5 with this. You would need video balance to make that happen. So you could drop all three of these. So if you are thinking, hey, I want to put an HDTVI system in, I've never had one, but I really can't do an IP networking system today. But in 5 years, I know that an IP networking system is going to be something that I can do and I want to do, then I would highly recommend that you do your system with Cat5, because then you're already wired and cabled for that kind of a system, right? So it's going to be an easy transition down the road. However, if you're going to do this and this is the only system you're ever going to buy and that's going to be the end of it forever and ever and ever, then HDTVI is the way you want to go. So I would run with RG59. And the reason I say RG59 over RG6 is really because you can get Siamese RG59 anywhere for a really good price, right? And then you can run your power and your video over the same cable. So it just makes your life a little easier. And again, savings on running 2 cables, right? And I know you can pull them at the same time, but still you're running just 1 cable all in one shot. So if you already have the cable ran, use it 100%. Make sure it's good, right? We kind of went over the benefits of switching HDTVI over IP is the cost, right? It's easy and it's cost effective. So making the switch. So this is kind of where it gets not tricky, but you want to make sure that you're right, because we want to set up our customers when we do this kind of stuff. We want to set them up for success. So in order for us to set them up for success, we have to make sure that we're giving them the right things. So when we make the switch to this, so you want to upgrade them from their existing DVR that they have or quad splitter that they might have. You want to upgrade that to a DVR that's a hybrid. So that way your customer, so if you've got we'll use a 16 camera system just for the sake of this training. They have 16 cameras, or we'll do an 8, and 8's actually easier. So they have an 8 camera system and they have all their cameras, right? And your customer is coming to you and they don't want to go IP networking because they're on the budget. So you don't want to say, hey, we're going to take all 8 cameras down and we're going to replace all of your hardware. That just doesn't make sense, right? And I'm not a big fan of throwing stuff away that still works, right? If it ain't broke, right? So that's where I go. So you want to start with the DVR. So here, and I've got, you know what, we're going with an 8 camera system, but I have a 4-channel DVR. They look the same. So you're going to go with the DVR. So this is a hybrid. And when we talk about this being a hybrid on our DVRs, this is our SVD series. So on our DVRs, when we talk about a hybrid, that means it takes an analog and a TVI signal and it auto detects which one you have. So it'll take all of them. So that means the first component you need to buy for that facility is going to be a hybrid DVR. So then you're going to put that in place. So all of their old and existing, not necessarily old, but all of their existing analog cameras are still going to work. You're going to plug them into the DVR and it's still going to work with the new technology. And then as they can replace, as they want to replace, as they have to replace or add to the system, then they're going to go into the TVI cameras, okay? So that's what they'll add, and that too will work on the hybrid system here, right? So that's the SVD 2400. So that'll be the 2404, which is a 4-channel, the 2408, which is an 8-channel, the 2416, and then the 2432. All of those will work, and all of those are going to take analog and HDTVI signals. So the reason we switch that first, again, is so that you're not setting them up, because people will go and they'll buy their TVI cameras and they'll hook it up to their existing DVR. And then where are they, right? Every now and then we get people that do that and we're like, why didn't you tell us what you were trying to do, right? And that's kind of what it is. So we just want to make sure they're set up for success on the front end. So then you're going to upgrade your cameras. And as you upgrade your cameras, I've got a few of them here to show you. So this is like the highest of the highest. So we'll start with this little guy, right? So this is cool. This is small, portable, right? Bullet camera, IR, infrared, LEDs. So here's the ticket, right? BNC connection. Guys, HDTVI is still a BNC connection. It's just not an analog signal. It's a digital signal. So that's the difference. So that's why when you take this BNC connection and you hook it to your analog monitor or your analog DVR, it doesn't work because it's not an analog signal. It's actually transmitting a digital signal, which is also how you get that high definition image, right? So you just want to make sure that your customers are aware of that and they understand that. So that's really important. So BNC, still BNC over coax, but it's a different signal. Industrial and commercial cameras come with the same features, just better images, right? So we do a lot of industrial. If you're familiar with Opticom, then you know that. So our industrial line, we've got right here is our CCO2 camera. And this is an analog camera. It's been around for a long time. This is a good camera. Fine trainings on this. This is a great camera, right? So this is our CCO2 and it's awesome, right? But it's analog. So now we have a TVI version of this as well. And it looks just like this, but it's yellow. So same idea. So they're available in all of them. Now something really cool, and that's on our industrial. Now on our commercial end, let me show you this camera, right? So back to that camera, right? So this is the TIB 2805PX. This has 2 BNCs on the end, right? I'm going to show you those two, right? Yellow and black. 2 BNCs. So this one has got 1 BNC that's going to be that analog CVBS. Sometimes you hear about people saying CVBS or 960H. That's also going to qualify as an analog, not a TVI or anything like that, right? And this one's a dual, right? So this one is actually a TVI and an SDI camera. So the black connector on here does TVI or SDI. So or I'm sorry, it does HD SDI and EX SDI. The yellow does the TVI and the analog. So this is really cool, right? So you've got the signal. So this is actually a 4-way, I don't know, would that be a quad-brid? Tri-brid, hybrid, quad-brid, we'll call it quad-brid today. So it's going to do 4 different signals, right? So that's really important. So that's what you're going to go with on this. If you've got somebody that wants to just swap out one camera, so say you have somebody that has a system and it's a 4-camera analog system, and they want to watch a gate, right? We'll just use a gate or a front door, or they want something where they can really look at the person and tell who it is. When you get one of these hybrid cameras, you can do that, right? So because you can still have that HD through that analog. So that's just something to know that it's out there, it's on the market. All of ours are hybrid in some sense. Not all of them are SDI, but all of them are going to be analog and TVI. Okay, so every camera that we sell is going to be available in an analog and a TVI. It may be one part number that has dual, or it may be like our CC02, where we have a CC02 and then we have a CC02-TVI. So we offer all of that. So every camera, and same thing goes with our IP networking as well. If we have it in an analog, we have it in a TVI, and we have it in an IP networking. Okay, so all the way across the board. So that's just important to know. So then we're going to go and we want to upgrade our monitor. So you're going to have an HDTVI camera system, right? So I've got one of our monitors here, right? Just to show you that's what a monitor looks like, guys. But if you have an HDTVI camera system, you want to make sure you have a monitor that's big enough and has the technology that's new enough to support an HD image. What is the point of having a high definition, you know, football quality picture streaming down the line, and then you hook it into a monitor that's from, you know, 1982, all right, 1998. Oh man, it's 2020, so maybe like 2012, right? And it can't support that. So you want to make sure that if your customer is going through all this work, or you yourself are going through all this work to implement all of this high definition, that you upgrade your monitor at some point too. So that's going to be a 19.5 inch or higher. Okay, the technology, I don't care who's out there saying it is, the technology is not there, and not many people are trying to. So if it's smaller than a 19.5, they can't get the ratios on the boards to make a HD in a smaller size. So make sure that if you're looking at it, 19.5 or larger is going to be your monitor size to get that HD. So existing monitor, but check, right? Your monitor you have may already support HD, and that's what you want to go with again. So your accessories on this, if you're using Cat5 or a TVI video balance, or if you're using Cat5, you want TVI video balance. So there's video balance that are out there that are just analog. So you want to make sure that if you're going to get a video balance with that Cat5, that you have one that is specifically made to handle TVI. Or if you are doing an AHD or a CVI or the SDI, you just want to make sure that your equipment is compatible with that. Because again, it has a BNC, but it's a different signal. All of our video balance are across the board, right? So they're the same way our cameras are made. They're compatible both ways. So if you're running directly to multiple TVI monitors, so in a commercial application, that may not sound like something or a big deal. However, if you are in an industrial application, you probably have cameras that it's one camera running straight to a monitor. And if that's the case, then you want to make sure that you have a monitor that can accept a TVI input, because your old analog BNC monitor isn't going to take that TVI input. So you want to make sure that you have a monitor that can accept that TVI input, or if you want to keep the monitor you have, you want to get a converter. And that converter is going to convert that TVI signal to an analog signal to go to your monitor. And that's how you would make that work. However, that brings me right back to the monitor thing. If you have a TVI camera that has a 1080p resolution on it, why would you want to convert that back to analog? You're defeating the purpose, right? So you really want to go, and if you're going to do it, spend the money, get the new monitor that will support the TVI, or put a plan in place to migrate that way to go to the TVI. We do a lot of that here. So we have a lot of facilities that we work with, and they'll come to us and say, okay, here's what we want to do. How do we accomplish it? Build out a system, right? This is what we want to convert from analog to HDTVI or analog to IP, right? This goes across the board, any of those kinds of options. Oh, are you there? I lost you for a second. So any of those kind of things. So you want to have a plan in place, and then you can budgetarily, right? Like take their, okay, what's your budget for each month, and then split it up across the ways. And that's why you have to do this in a very specific order, by starting with the DVR, and then going from the DVR and moving to the cameras, and then from the cameras to the monitors, right? Unless somebody's ready to just buy everything all in one shot. Otherwise, we need to kind of lay out a plan. And that's what we do. So definitely call us up. We can help you out with that. Just give us the numbers and we'll get you where you need to be for that. So running your camera back directly to your monitor, right? We'll need the converter if we're going to go that way. But again, I highly recommend you just get the right monitor. That way you're seeing your HD image on there. Quick reference. So no, we're going to skip that. Okay. So if we go from that to that to that to that to that, explosion proof. So I just want to go over really briefly. This is a short training, right? The HDTVI stuff that we do have, right? So we've got, this is one of our Vandal dome cameras right here, right? So this is our TIV 2101SV. And again, that same thing, right? So it's, well, that's the power cord, but it's got the two BNCs, right? So it's dual, well, quad, this one's quad. And then you've got our explosion proof, and that works the same way as our industrial line. So our explosion proof is available in an analog. We have an analog part number, and it's available in a TVI part number. And then again, it's available in the IP networking as well. So this is just one of them. This is our fixed lens TVI unit right here. And then same thing, wireless. We have analog wireless, we have HDTVI wireless, and we have IP networking wireless. So these are all the different options that are out there. And there's a lot of different options with a lot of different manufacturers. But I mean, it's definitely something that if you are considering making this switch, then we want to put a plan in place to get you there, and to get you there to where you're happy with it, and that it's going to work as you transition. Your system's not going to be down for a month because you're waiting for next month's budget to add these cameras, right? So you want to make it a smooth transition as you progress through this. Let me pull this up here. So that is it for HDTVI. It is short, sweet, and simple because you've already got everything in place. It's a pretty quick transition. If you have any questions, you can always give us a call at 1-800-578-1853, or you can check out our website at www.opticomtech.com. And of course, there's more training videos that are online and available as well.